How we doing, everybody? UFC Thoughts here. And today, you're looking at the title, and I know you're asking yourself, dude, did you just make another card builder video? You're damn right I did. I'm running out of ideas. Let me fucking be, alright? But this is one of the first times I'm doing a card builder video where a card is, like, in its infancy. You know what I mean? Where, like, nothing is added to it. There's, like, 3 fights added to it and some, like, fights circling around, like, oh, this fight could possibly happen. But I'm making most of these matchups. But as you guys know, I make 5 prelims, I make the whole main card, I come up with some good fights for UFC 314, which is going to take place in Miami, Florida on April 12th. Let's get right into it. The prelims for UFC 314 brought to you by Howlerhead and the Minecraft movie, only in theaters, April 4th. That's probably not the movie they're going to use, but I think it is funny that that's also coming out in April. But yeah, 5 prelims. Let's get to the first one. Featherweight. Now this matchup is extremely circumstantial because it really depends on if one guy does stay at featherweight. I have Joanderson Brito versus Felipe Lima. That's a fire matchup. Tell me that's not a fucking fire matchup. I dare you. It really does depend, though, if Felipe Lima does stay at 145. Because if you guys remember, Felipe Lima came in short notice at Saudi Arabia against Muhammad Naimov, beats him, beats Miles Johns, another bantamweight moving up to featherweight for no reason. It's really depending on if he is a 145er or if he drops back down to 135. I think he looks great for 145. He is a little undersized, though. But I think this fight would be fucking badass. Joanderson Brito, a marauder, man. This guy's a fucking marauder. He walks forward. But seriously, I think Joanderson Brito's ferocious style of just walking and stalking his opponents down with throwing everything 100%, his leg kicks throwing with 100%, he's like, he makes like, he makes like weird fucking noises in the cage, and Felipe Lima is like a very dynamic striker, very quick twitch muscle, very athletic, has good defense, kind of just like a little fucking gremlin to deal with. But I think the grappling could even be entertaining in a matchup like this. Joanderson Brito attacks subs, and he does do well in clinch positions. He throws like leg kicks really close and knees to the body very well. Felipe Lima can scramble really well and can move around the clinch pretty decently well as well. Jesus, that's a lot of wells. How are you doing? Are you doing well? Felipe Lima, he can get to the back pretty well. God damn, Jesus fucking Christ. But you get what I'm saying. They're both very good fighters, very entertaining. And Felipe Lima, I didn't even mean to do it that time. Felipe Lima is very quick. I think the matchup would just be very sick. Bars. We move to another prelim. This one's actually official. Lightweight Jim Miller versus Chase Hooper. This got announced literally like 30 minutes ago, if I'm being totally honest with you. But I think it's a dope matchup. I think that Chase Hooper will most likely win. I think it just really depends on if he is able to get past the guard of Jim Miller. Because Jim Miller, shockingly enough, just has a very, very good submission game, which is a little scary against a predominant grappler like Chase Hooper. It really depends on if he's able to keep his head out of guillotines and not allow Jim Miller to like circle to his back. But I think Chase Hooper is good enough with his length on the ground. Pause again. He is a very tall, lanky grappler, but he has very good control, and he's able to drop his hips down low and kind of control people and, like, get top mount, like, control the legs very well, lower his hips so they're not able to buck as easy. The striking is always going to be scary against Chase Hooper because he kind of just doesn't, his chin isn't great, I'll be honest. We don't really know how good it is at lightweight, if we're being totally honest. I've seen him get hit one good time by Vyacheslav Borshev, and he ate it pretty well. His long, rangy jabs are going to work well against Jim Miller, who is shorter. But I don't know. I think it's a really tricky matchup for Jim Miller. I think Chase Hooper has the edge almost everywhere, if I'm being honest. Jim Miller is going to be slower on the feet. Even though Chase Hooper is not the fastest guy, he will have a little bit of a speed advantage. Jim Miller kind of needs not a Hail Mary, I'll say, but he can win. But it's going to take he's going to have to eat a couple shots, possibly get taken down, get his ass whooped. And I don't think Jim Miller has the cardio to beat Chase Hooper across 3. I'll say that, but Yeah, we move to another prelim. We move all the way up to heavyweight. I brought some fat fucks out for you guys to watch. A rebooking of a fight that was supposed to happen. Marcos Rogerio de Lima versus Kennedy Nzechukwu. I like this matchup. I really wish it happened at 308 instead of seeing Chris Barnett's fat ass get sacrificed for no fucking reason. This was the original matchup. Not the original matchup, because Kennedy, I think, was actually stepping in short notice as well. And then Marcos pulled out. Marcos hasn't fought since then. His last actual fight was February, I believe, at 298 against Junior Tafa. But I really do like this matchup. For one, Kennedy Nzechukwu is one of the only athletic heavyweights that we have to look forward to in that division. All the other guys are fat. Shamil Gaziev, fat as fuck. Mick Parkin, fat boxer. He has a good jab. That's about it. God, I don't even know other heavyweight prospects. Holy shit, that is fucking depressing. Waldo Cortez Acosta, fat as shit as well. But Kennedy, light heavyweight moving up, big guy, 6'5", long reach. I think the leg kicks of Marcos Rogerio de Lima could play a factor in this matchup, just because Kennedy does have longer legs and not as big calves. And we know that Marcos has debilitating leg kicks. On the feet, though, I think the range will belong to Kennedy. The jabs will work well. He throws very loose hooks that maybe could get countered with a big old meaty overhand by Marcos Rogerio de Lima. I think the matchup's just very interesting, I'll be honest. I don't know if they would try to grab. I think this is just like a, like, you know when there's fights on there that you don't really know the names? Well, people know who these guys are. And people know Marcos Rogerio de Lima and Kennedy Nzechukwu. If you don't know them, I guess you're not a catch. Like, you should know them if you actively watch the UFC. This is kind of a fight where you're like, oh, this fight's probably going to end in a finish. It's like a little adrenaline boost for you to be like, oh shit, these guys are throwing down. And that's a teep kick to the body at heavyweight that was actually fast. And he's unranked. Holy shit. Kennedy Nzechukwu, he's fucking badass. It's kind of a fight to either bring light to Marcos Rogerio de Lima or Kennedy Nzechukwu, who is a prospect at heavyweight, who we have to look forward to, who was kind of mediocre light heavyweight, built his way back up. Marcos Rogerio de Lima, like a way for him to get back into it, even though he is old as shit. We move to another prelim, and I'll be honest, it's WMMA. All right, you're not gonna like it, but I like it. I like it. Macy Barber versus Natalia Silva. Honestly, I think this is a WMMA fight people can actually get behind. I think that a lot of people, if you actually know who Natalia Silva and Macy Barber are, I think you'll actually like this matchup. Natalia Silva, one of the best prospects at women's flyweight in recent memory, besides, of course, Manon Fior and Aaron Blanchfield prior to getting beat up by Manon Fior, I guess. Natalia Silva, I believe, is 6-0 in the UFC. Macy Barber, of course, is on a 5-fight win streak. But I do think that this is a matchup that could happen just because of how Macy Barber hasn't fought since March, and that is all due to the fact that she almost died after beating Caitlin Sermonara at 299. If you guys remember that, she had a very bad case of, I don't even know what it was, pneumonia, I think. I don't know exactly what it wasn't pneumonia because she almost fucking perished for it, but she was really, really fucked up. And it wasn't because of the fight. She just kind of I don't even know what happened, but I believe that she is healthy now. I hope she is. It is a 5 versus 4 matchup at flyweight. I think that this is a fight, when you're trying to get Fior and Valentina to fight. I think this is a fight you could make to fight for the title after that, because I believe Manon will most likely beat Valentina Shevchenko. She's too big and too manly. But I believe that this is a matchup you could do. Also, it's slightly entertaining. It's one of the only entertaining WMMA fights that you could possibly make with ranked top fivers, especially at flyweight, who are on a good schedule. I don't think Alexa Grasso is going to fight soon. I think she'll probably wait a little bit, kind of see what happens with the Fior versus Valentina fight. But yeah, I think that the striking would be interesting. Natalia Silva has good cardio, throws a lot of kicks to the body, throws a lot of side kicks. Macy Barber, Marauder, man. If you watch the Amanda Hebos fight, that was actually pretty entertaining. All right, if you want to see a brutal WMMA finish, that's pretty good. We move to the featured prelim. I believe that the announced fight of Nikita Krylov versus Dominic Reyes will serve as the featured prelim. And listen, in any other standards, this would be a main card fight. But I do believe that they're going to stack 314 up quite a bit with the fights that I have in mind that I kind of already understand are booked. So, first of all, great fight. Nikita Krylov return. He was supposed to fight at, was it 309 or 310? I think it was 309 against Azamat Murzakanov, who is now serving a USADA suspension for 6 months due to an illegal substance found in him. But I believe that this fight will be interesting. I think Reyes will have the range advantage on the feet. Besides that, it's kind of hard to find an advantage for him. Nikita Krylov has a good, decent enough chin. He's been in very competitive fights with good fighters. I know Dominic Reyes, of course, was competitive with John Jones. I get it. That was in 2020. All right. He's got brutally KO'd by Ryan Spann since then. And also, he's like, the guys he's beating, to be fair, are Anthony Smith and Dustin Jacoby. Are we really? Listen, I love Dominic Reyes. I've been rooting for him hard as shit. I picked him against Dustin Jacoby because I was just like, please fucking win, Dominic, please. And I believe that this is kind of a too big of a step up, if I'm being honest. Going from Anthony Smith to Nikita Krylov, who has beaten Volkan Oezdemir, and in his last fight, subbed Ryan Spann in the first round, negated a lot of the stand-up with the grappling, kind of made him scramble too much and gassed him out to get the sub. He went to a competitive decision with a Magomed Ankalaev. He went to a split decision with Glover Teixeira, right? The only guys this dude's is losing to is like Jan Blachowicz, Glover Teixeira, Magomed Ankalaev. We skipped the Paul Craig fight. It doesn't exist. It never happened. Even though I'm almost certain I picked Paul Craig in that fight. Dude, I have some weird picks in my career, man. That shouldn't have hit, but did. But I think this is a badass matchup. It'll most likely end in a finish because it is Dominic Reyes in a fight. He's a very kill or be killed fighter. I highly doubt a fight of his from now on will ever not end in a finish just because he can get chinned or he will chin somebody else. But he also could get out grappled in a matchup like this. He'll probably be stronger than Nikita Krylov, I'll be honest, because I'm Dominic Reyes. I'm an athlete. But let's be honest, Nikita Krylov does have the grappling edge. We move to the main card, again brought to you by the Minecraft movie, available only in theaters April 4th. Experience it in IMAX. So, 314, Miami. The opening of the main card. Listen to me, you little pricks. That was very aggressive, I'm sorry. A certain berry-eating cunt was on a podcast recently. I like to hunt. I like to game hunt. And, I like to eat berries. Bo Nickel, I like to eat berries. Bo Nickel said on a podcast that he is booked for 314. He has a fight booked. He will be fighting there. He doesn't have an opponent yet, but he is booked for 314. He is going to fight there. And he announced what the main event will most likely be, which we'll get to later, of course. There are a couple guys you could put Bo Nickel against. I think a matchup that they will do, and very well might, Jesus fucking Christ, Curtis Blades, might make, is him versus Abusmian Magomedov. Hear me out. There are some other guys. I don't believe Bo Nickel will fight Michel Pereira yet. First of all, Michel Pereira, I don't think is going to fight for a little bit. He took a lot of damage. He took a lot of damage, I say. Too much damage against Anthony Hernandez, I say. It was too bad. That was in October. I don't think he could make an April turnaround. I'm being totally honest with you. But Abusmian Magomedov is a decent matchup. He fought at 308, fought Bruno Ferreira. He's been decently active as of recent. I forget when he fought Worley Alves. I think it was in May, I want to say. He beat him by decision. But also, there is a narrative you could go by. Bo Nickel coming off the decision with Paul Craig, where a lot of people are starting to doubt his skills. You could put him against a guy like a Bus, 3-2 in the UFC, and you can go on the narrative. That the only guys he has lost to in the UFC are title challenger right now, Sean Strickland, former champion, and number 6 ranked in the world, Caio Borralho, on short notice. Besides that, he's undefeated in the UFC. He has great finishing potential, 2 finishes in the UFC. He also, we saw in the Worley Alves fight, he can grapple, And in the Bruno Ferreira fight, he can grapple. So you could go off the fact that he is Russian-born, German, like he reps German, but he was Russian-born. You could go by the Magomedov name, kind of be like he's fighting the Magomedov. He talks a lot of shit about the Russian and Daggies fighting. I think that it could definitely be a matchup that gets made down the line. Also, I think that it is a very winnable fight for Bo Nickel, but also, who knows? A bus can do whatever he wants. Who gives a shit? There are, of course, other guys that you could definitely do him against, because I just really doubt that they'll do him versus Michel Pereira, because there's literally no other ranked fighters, in my opinion, that you could do him against. Literally, it's Michel Pereira. I don't think they're going to do him versus Jack Hermanson. I think that's career suicide, if I'm being totally honest with you. I think Jack Hermanson would beat up Bo Nickel. I think it's a terrible matchup. I don't think they'd do him against Paulo Costa. I think it's too big of a name this early. They need to do him against another unranked guy for him to succeed, is my opinion. Like, if they could definitely do him versus Jack Hermanson, I just think that it's dumb. Other guys you could do, possibly, Brad Tavares is also a good shout. Jung Young Park, maybe. I don't think he has a fight booked as of recent. That's definitely a guy that they could do against Bo Nickel. Who was the other guy that I saw? Who was the other dude that I called out that could definitely become... If Reinier de Ridder would make a quick enough turnaround, which I don't think he would, that would be a matchup you could do if you're the UFC. Therese Finney. Fucking Therese Finney in his debut gets to fight Bo Nickel. That'd be so fucking funny. Holy shit. Oh, yeah. Alishkab Kurzhiev. Undefeated Russian. 14-0-1, coming off the no contest against Makhmud Muradov. Prior to that, he beat Dennis Tulunin in 2022, I believe. I think that it's either Magomedov or that Alishkab Kurzhiev guy. I really I don't think that they put him against a ranked opponent just yet, just because of how him and Paul Craig wasn't he clearly won every round. But the striking numbers were close. Bo would land one harder shot than Paul and would win the round. He was making Paul Craig actually look kind of decent on the feet. I think him versus a Michel Pereira or Jack Hermanson this early, I don't know, man. A-Bus is a way easier matchup. We move to the next main card fight. I am praying. I'm telling you, that this is a fight that gets made. I've been wanting to see this forever. I wish that this would have happened on 312. Jeff Neal versus Carlos Prates. I need this fucking fight. It screams of Miami. It just screams of a Miami card, if you get what I mean. Jeff Neal has been talking in interviews that he's willing to fight Carlos Prates, and he's willing to fight other people, but he named Carlos Prates. Prates has been calling out Jeff Neal. It makes a lot of sense. I think rankings-wise, Jeff Neal is 10, and then Carlos is 13. It also kind of coincides with another matchup on the card, and I'll get to it literally in the next fight. Don't worry. Jeff Neal, Carlos Prates is a fucking, I don't want to say wet dream of a fight. It's pretty fucking close, if I'm being honest. I love the matchup. Jeff Neal has brick hands. He hits fucking hard. So does Carlos Prates. Jeff Neal's a great boxer. Carlos Prates has great kickboxing. Jeff Neal took no damage against RDA at 308. Carlos Prates took little to zero damage against Neil Magny at UFC Vegas 100 in November. Similar timelines. Literally one fought 2 weeks later. Come on, UFC. Make the matchup, bro. Please. Put it on a main card of a pay-per-view. I want to see this in Miami. It just screams one of these guys is going to die in there. One of them will die. One of them will be flatlined. It doesn't matter, right? Jeff Neal also has only been KO'd once in his entire career, and it was to Kevin Holland on the regionals. Prates is 4-0 in the UFC, all 4 by finish. I don't want to see Prates get a massive jump up, and I don't want to see Carlos Prates versus fucking Ian Gary or Colby Covington. Ease him into it. Jeff Neal, besides the RDA fight, he's losing. He's losing to Ian Gary. He's losing to a Shavkat Rakhmonov. Prior to that, he beat a Vicente Luque. Prior to that, he beat a Ponzinibbio by split decision. He lost to Neil Magny, right? He isn't he's kind of that highly ranked still to the day because he knocked out Vicente Luque when Vicente was 8, I believe, or he was even higher, I think. But I love the matchup. I think it's a great matchup. We move to the featured fight. Now 312, this is a fucking featured fight. Take notes, all right. Gilbert Burns versus Michael Morales. I think it's a little bit above Neal in protest just because Burns is higher ranked than Jeff Neal, and Michael Morales is also higher ranked than Carlos. I think it's just a higher ranked welterweight to get the higher of the bill. Gilbert Burns is more known than Jeff Neal. He's a fan favorite. Everybody loves Gilbert. Torino Burns. Everyone loves you, brother. This is official. This is an official matchup at 314. It is one of 3 fights officially booked. I love it. I think Michael Morales is heavily underrated. As you guys remember, I believe that he's a better prospect than Carlos Prates. That doesn't mean that I like him more. All I'm saying is before Carlos Prates, in my heart, Michael Morales was there, and he still is. Michael Morales is my boy. That's my dog. That's the 25-year-old fucking Ecuadorian prospect that I think will probably beat that can probably beat Gilbert Burns. Michael Morales, streaking contender, undefeated in his career, 17-0. I think is he 5 or 6-0 in the UFC? I think he's 5-0 in the UFC. But I think that this fight is very good. Finishability is there. Michael Morales still very young, 25 years old. This is a big step up for him from fighting Neil Magny, of course. Gilbert Burns looked like he got touched by age against Sean Brady. Let's all be honest. It wasn't the performance we were all expecting. If you picked Sean Brady, you expected him to win in a more gritty fight. Gilbert kind of subsided in that one, if I'm being totally honest with you guys. I think that fight was a weak performance. But this is his chance to get back into it. This is the chance for Gilbert Burns to finally get back into there. Beat a very good contender. The last time that he faced a really streaking prospect was JDM. We saw how that went. He won one of the first 2 rounds. He shouldn't have been up 2-0. I stand by that to the day. He didn't win those first 2 rounds. He didn't win both of them, at least. And then he got finished in the third. Michael Morales, very young, very big for welterweight. We'll see how it plays out. I think Michael Morales will have the striking advantage, of course, because he is a more of a kickboxer striker. Gilbert Burns might have the power advantage, maybe. And then, of course, Burns will have the grappling advantage. But we'll see if Michael Morales is able to deal with it. We move to the co-main event. I'm going to be honest with you. My original co-main event for this was going to be Dustin Poirier, Max Holloway. I saw just recently that Dustin Poirier officially said he will not be at 314. He is not on the Miami card. That is an official statement from the Diamond. So I had to scour the rankings a little bit and figure out a matchup that could happen and also could be scheduled. Corey Sandhagen versus Davison Figueiredo. Tell me this isn't a banger matchup. I don't think this would be a 5-round co-main event, in my personal opinion. They'll probably make it 3. But I think Corey Sandhagen versus Davison Figueiredo is a fucking badass fight, for 1. 2, top 6 bantamweights going at it. And this is also a kind of a fight to get back into one fight away from the title, in my personal opinion. Corey Sandhagen fought Umar, lost to him. Umar gets the title shot. Davison Figueiredo fought Piotr Jan, was a streaking contender up to that point. Beat Cheeto, beat Rob Font, beat Cody Garbrandt, and then lost to Piotr Jan. That was a very cool fight. This is a badass fight. I think that it kind of matches up 5 versus 6, both coming off losses. I just think that it's badass. I wouldn't mind it being 5 rounds. I think that a 5-round fight would be pretty dope. From being honest, I think that a 5-round fight would be pretty sick. But I think the striking of Corey Sandhagen would be on showing. Davison would, of course, have the power advantage. He seemingly always does. In this case, the grappling would be very interesting with Figueiredo's judo throws and kind of trips in the clinch to see if he could possibly control Corey, who seemingly has some of the best takedown defense at bantamweight that we've seen. He did very well against Umar Nurmagomedov, kind of Granby rolling and not allowing himself to get controlled for a large majority of that fight like some people thought he would. And also his offensive grappling looks pretty well, which we saw happen to Deiveson Figueiredo against Petr Yan, where Petr Yan was able to actively take him down. I think that the striking would be very well. I think the cardio would definitely play a part against Deiveson Figueiredo. I don't know. I think that Deiveson, of course, would have the power advantage, like I said. Corey, maybe a bit of a technique kind of advantage, but I really hope that this fight would be a non-passive fight from Corey. I think this would be a fight where Corey would be forced to throw a little bit, possibly. Or maybe not, because Deiveson also is kind of a lower volume kind of fighter. But I don't know. I think that Corey Sandhagen, if he sees Deiveson start to slow down even a little bit, would pick it up pretty egregiously. So, it is what it is. We move to the main event. The main event, you see the guy in the thumbnail. You know what the fight's going to be. It's pretty much like official but not official. Ilia Topuria versus Volkanovski 2. I'm not like a huge fan of the matchup, of course, because I believe that Topuria will most likely knock him out again. But I'm not totally opposed to it. Like Volkanovski, let's all be honest with you. Prior to the KO in the Topuria fight, Volkanovski looked probably one of the best Volks we've seen ever. I think his speed looked very good. His low kicks looked very good. He was jabbing the face of Topuria off. He just has shortcomings in his defense. He's always kind of had shortcomings in his defense. It's just that Ilia has criminal boxing. Maybe Volk comes out with a more grapple-heavy approach, possibly. That is something that he could do. But I don't know. It's a title fight, featherweight title. I really wish that it would have been Diego Lopez. I fucking wish it would have been, because at least it's a different matchup. But it seems like Diego Lopez is going to headline that Mexico City card come March 29th. We'll see what happens there. Topuria, Volkanovski, power edge to Topuria, of course. Volkanovski, very technical boxer, very good kickboxer. Topuria, he just kind of seems like a final boss at this point, where you can hit him all you want. Max was putting up numbers on him. Volkanovski was putting up numbers on him. Bryce Mitchell even was putting up decent numbers on him on the feet, had some very solid striking moments. And then you get touched. And that's, pause by the way, that's when it all just starts to go to shit. Volkanovski got clipped once with a right hand, died. Max Holloway gets clipped with a straight right, gets hurt, wobbled, kind of rebounds, and then left hook, dies. Bryce Mitchell. And that's another thing. The grappling, honestly, could work in Volkanovski's favor. It couldn't as well, because Ilia Topuria is one of the more well-rounded fighters in the UFC. He's, like, Volkanovski's very well-rounded, don't get me wrong. Ilia Topuria is sneaky well-rounded, because a lot of people don't even really know about his grappling expertise prior to the UFC, and in his UFC debut against Yusuf Zalal, where he was able to lateral drop and hip throw him across the fucking cage. He's very strong in Greco-Roman, just very strong in general as well. I think that this matchup probably screams Miami. If I'm being honest, Ilia Topuria, his ego, I guess you could say, his personnel really speaks Miami douchebag Florida. I think it's a cherry on the top. It's a cherry on top for the card, even though I wish that it would have been somebody else than Volkanovski. I still will watch, because Volkanovski, who knows? Maybe Volkanovski does fucking show out, have a great performance. I don't think so. I think he gets brutally KO'd, but that's not for me to say. We'll have to watch and find out. UFC 314. What are some matchups you guys would like to see on this card? Let me know in the comments below. If you like the video, give it a like. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe. Miami, Florida. Some of these matchups are official. Like I said, Burns versus Morales is official. Jim Miller versus Jay Super's official. Nikita Krylov, Dominic Reyes is official. Everything else is original, made by me. Besides Topuria Volkanovski, I guess, because that's kind of basically official at this point. But who gives a shit? But my next video will most likely be picks and breakdown for UFC Saudi Arabia, Adesanya versus Imavov this Saturday. I'll release it either Thursday or Friday. But I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.